Welcome to our last OnCore Live of 2024. I'm your host, Robin Bell, and on today's show, get ready for a powerful how-to on corporate storytelling. Joining us today is a corporate storytelling expert and author who's going to answer the questions. How do you differentiate your brand in the marketplace? How do you discover your story? And how do you get your customers to take action? We're also going to talk with one of the Avery Dennison experts about the power of the Core Series portfolio bonding studies. It's one of the ways Avery Dennison Performance Tapes makes it easier for you to do business with your customers, all of which can help you grow your business in 2025. We're going to have a Q&A at the end of the webisode, but you can send those questions to us throughout the webisode and we'll address them at that time. And please post those questions in the Q&A tab on your meeting toolbar and not in chat. Joining us today for OnCore Live is Steve Multer, corporate storytelling thought leader and author of the book, Nothing Gets Sold Until the Story Gets Told. Steve's going to help us rethink your product messaging strategies, improve your people's performance, and he's going to help you to better articulate and share your real stories. Why don't we get started by welcoming Jenna Miles, product development and technical support engineer with Avery Dennison. Jenna's going to discuss the technical expertise behind our Core Series portfolio bonding studies. This is the first time we've had Jenna with us on OnCore Live, and we are delighted to have you with us here today. Jenna, welcome.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, Jenna. Lovely to have you here with us.
Excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. Now, why don't we start with having you telling us a little bit about yourself and your role with Avery Dennison?
Absolutely. I've been with Avery Dennison Performance Tapes for just about 3.5 years now as a product development and technical support engineer. And really, that's just a lengthy way to say that I can be considered like the bridge between the commercial side and the technical side of PSA or sorry, tape applications. So I'm out in the field working with our customers, really understanding the markets and the applications that our tapes can work in, as well as diving deep into our R&D and working with customizing new products to fit customers' very specific needs. So really a little bit of everything.
So that face-to-face helps you to better understand their needs as well.
Absolutely.
So in the past, we featured the Core Series bonding studies on OnCore Live. That has been really great. For our viewers that are here today, would you recap how many bonding studies there are and also the number of companies who've participated with you and your team?
Sure. We currently have 7 total studies. Some of which are top functional material suppliers. Just to name a few, Armacell, Rogers Poron, Woodbridge Autobond. We even have some non-foam based materials, Sunburst Felt, and even Asheville Mica. As we all know, the markets, applications, and the need for new and advanced materials in these applications is ever changing. So we're continuing to reach out to these material suppliers to partner with us for these bonding studies. So that being said, anyone watching today, if you have a company that you think would be interested in working with us, we would love to hear from you.
We'll give that contact information a little bit later. So how does the Core Series team go about testing manufacturers' materials, for example, like Sunburst Felt? And would you also tell us about the testing process and the typical timeline?
That's a really good question. And the honest answer is it can vary depending on how much and what is being tested. As you mentioned, the example of Sunburst, we tested about 9 different Core Series products to about 5 different felt grades. Each tape and felt combination was subjected to 3 different specific lamination conditions, including one special lamination condition, which we don't normally do, which is using the ASTM D3611 accelerated aging process, which is meant to mimic a 2-year aging, but it is completed in 4 days. So if you can imagine 9 tapes, 5 felts, 3 different lamination conditions, that's hundreds of different peel tests, plus all of the data interpretation afterwards. And that's a mid-level bonding study. So that all being said, from small studies to large studies, the timeline can vary between a few months to potentially a year.
It's just, it blows the mind to imagine it, right? This is all great information. What would the benefits be then? We were talking about the benefits here. What would they be when you're using these bonding studies for their customers?
So in the same way that we call our core series portfolio a tool in your toolbox, we like to think of these bonding studies as yet another tool in the toolbox. They were created to help you and your customer and your commercial team, especially in those, I need a product recommendation today on this very specific opportunity, and I only know the functional material that I need to bond to. So not only are we helping to validate these very commonly used materials in the very specific markets, along with the PSA counterpoints or counterparts. But these studies are also helping tell our customers and material manufacturers that we at Avery Dennison are here to help them leverage our lab and innovation center in Painesville, Ohio, continue to work with them and produce these studies so that they can, better service themselves and put themselves in a better position to win. And I think that's kind of one way that Avery Dennison is uniquely positioned out in the market. We help our customers communicate with their customers, making it easier to do business overall. It's really a win-win for everybody, honestly.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it absolutely will make it easier. And I also really like what you said about thinking of the bonding studies as another tool in the toolbox. So let's move on. There's a new bonding study available. The Armasil component foams with the Avery Dennison low VOC acrylic FT8299. Can you walk us through the study?
Yeah, absolutely. So as the title suggests, the study does feature our new product, FT8299. 8299 is a double-coated, high-performance, low VOC, so low solvent gases. It utilizes a tissue carrier, so a lot of flexibility in the tape. When thinking about the Armasil foams that are being used, the foams that you're seeing on the screen, they also tend to offer a lot of flexibility, so we wanted to stay within that realm. In the family of foams that were used, we stuck with the Armasil's elastomeric foams, similar to the Enzelay and the Monarch series. So they are expanded closed cell foams. They are very often used in gap filling applications, so gasketing, insulation, soundproofing, applications like that. They're used in a variety of markets, but they do play heavily in the automotive and transportation markets. Similarly with the polyolefins and like Olitech, they are thermoplastic polymers, more easily molded into specific shapes, a little bit more resilient to chemicals, but again, play heavily in the automotive space.
Hmm. And others as well, as you said.
Yes. As far as the prep work for the study, so all of our work is done in our ISO 9001 certified lab here in Painesville, Ohio. Ultimately, the only test that's really being performed is a standard 180-degree peel. So to prep it, the PSA is backed with a standard 2 mil PET, and then cut down to 1 inch by 8 inch strips. For this study specifically, we wanted to test 2 lamination settings, room temperature and heat lamination. But I do want to note that if the foam tore after room temperature lamination, we did not study at heat lamination because ultimately the tape passed the ultimate test. What we want to see is that the PSA is not the failure point because foam tear is the ultimate goal.
And as you said, at room temperature, you saw that, and absolutely, the ultimate goal is the tear. One last question for you, Jenna, if you would indulge me. If our viewers want to learn more about the bonding studies and review the studies that are currently available, how can they access the information?
Sure. They can go to tapes.averydennison/insights, or they can reach out to their account manager about accessing these studies. And honestly, the account manager usually also reaches out to myself or one of my colleagues. We are happy to help with any questions.
Yeah, and there are, we've talked about this before on OnCore Live. There are so many resources available to customers of Avery Dennison, right there for you to take advantage of. And the lab in Painesville is impressive. Well, Jenna, I got to say, this was really fun talking with you today and learning about the Avery Dennison bonding studies. Thanks for spending time with us and for all the great information that you've given us. So Jenna is going to be, thanks, Jenna.
Thank you.
Jenna will be back with us when we have the Q&A at the end of the webisode. But as a reminder, send those questions at the end of the webisode and post those questions on the Q&A toolbar when you can. With us now is Steve Multer, corporate storytelling thought leader, author of the book, Nothing Gets Sold Until the Story Gets Told. And he's a consultant. As Steve likes to say, no one likes a sales pitch, but everyone loves a great story. Over these next 20 minutes or so, we're going to dive into differentiating your brand and how to turn your story into your brand. It's essentially a crash course on how to tell your story, in Steve's words, why we do what we do. I've known Steve a lot of years. He's one of my dearest friends, and I'm really looking forward to this talk with him about corporate storytelling. So with that, welcome to OnCore Live, Steve.
What a beautiful introduction. Thank you, my dear friend. I do appreciate it. Great to be with you. Great to be with everybody here on the broadcast.
Yeah, this should be a lot of fun. So why don't we begin with a brief introduction of your background?
All right, we're going to keep this very brief because one of the things we'll talk about is, frankly, nobody cares about our background. They care about their own bottom line and how they run their own business and how we create value for others. But very simply, I came from a theater background up until I was about 30, and then made an accidental leap into what was known at the time during the dot-com era of the late 90s as theater-based corporate storytelling. And corporate storytelling goes under a very large banner. But the idea was we accidentally stumbled into becoming corporate spokespeople. You were the exact same as I was. We both came from that background. But what that meant was we started speaking on behalf of corporations, helping them to deliver their story out to their markets, to their customers, to their partners, to their analysts. And then bit by bit, I grew that business from about 1996, 97 up until today. adding another a level, a group of different services along that, which went to coaching and training and writing and communication capabilities and broadcasting and moderation. And we find ourselves here today talking to each other on this call.
I love it, every bit of it. So let's dive into this a little bit, okay? So, what is corporate storytelling and why does it matter?
All right, so corporate storytelling is a fundamental, as you can see up here on this screen. It started with John Deere back in the late 1890s, long after the founder, after John Deere himself had passed away, and his son was running the organization. But it was this concept of connecting a brand, connecting a company to the buyer, to the customer market by blending the details of an argument or of a subject matter, or in this case, a product that Deere was selling, with personal experiences, with some sort of a story that would connect with the buyer on a deeper level other than just, here's my product, I want you to buy my product. So the fundamental, the balance is, how do we create that 50-50 between information and inspiration? So if we go back to our lessons potentially in high school or at university, you might have heard about logos and pathos. Logos being information-based, pathos being emotion or some sort of a deeper personal storytelling. And the idea is, if you can balance logos and pathos, you create a story around your product, around your brand, in a way that simply utilizing the logos is not going to work. Information on its own bores your audience. That's all they're bombarded with day after day, is loads of information, data, statistics, metrics, KPIs about the quality of the product or how great the product is and why you should buy my product. And customers tune out because they're hit with 10,000 of those on average every single day. It's by incorporating that pathos, that emotion story, or that corporate story into your pitch, into your sale, into your marketing, that creates core differentiation and sets your brand apart. One without the other doesn't work. Information alone fails. Inspiration alone, there's nothing for them to grasp onto. Put the two of those things together and you've got a winning pitch.
Sure do. Information overload. We're all familiar with that, aren't we?
You bet.
Let's make it a little bit more touchy-feely, if you will. So, so how do you start to build a story? So say you've always thought of your product as your story. How would you develop your story?
It is such a good question, Robin. The issue that we face is that customers in general are saturated by a very, very deep market with loads and loads of options, which we would think from a purely capitalist standpoint means that with all of these choices, we are in the power seat as buyers. So if we think about who our customers are, who is looking to our product, we think that a very populated competitive marketplace is a net gain for us because it creates more competition and therefore elevates our game. And at the same time, for the customer, allows them to have a lot of choice. The reality is that most customers are confused by masses of choice. If you've ever stepped into a cheesecake factory and you open that 39-page menu and you're thinking, I'm hungry, what the heck am I supposed to choose? I don't even know which section to go with, let alone which thing from within each section. Then the next day you go into a restaurant and there are 8 items on the menu. And most diners feel empowered by that. Thank heavens. I've got fewer things to choose from. I'm going to pick out exactly what I want. I go to it. I make my decision on I go. If I'm at Cheesecake Factory 4 hours later, I'm still looking at that menu. The same thing works within our competitive marketplace. So if we know that customers are confused, and we know that customers are being told that every option they have on the market, including yours, everybody who is listening in on this broadcast, is the best confuses the marketplace. And they end up simply going to the mattresses. They buy what they're already used to. So if we look at this slide that's up on the screen, this is one of my favorite examples. Let's say that I'm a BMW man. I've owned a couple of BMWs in my life. My dad had BMWs. My grandfather had BMWs. I know the brand. I'm comfortable with it. Is it a perfect car? No. Does it cost me a lot of money in repairs after 50,000 miles? Yeah, you better believe it does. But I know BMWs. So the devil you know, or I really genuinely think it is the best car. But I'm in the market for a new vehicle, and I want to check out the competition. So I go and I drive. As you can see up here, I drive the Mercedes, the equal trim line Audi, the Infiniti, the Volvo, and every dealership that I go to, And everything that I research tells me why their brand is the best in the market. And they have the data to prove why they're the best. They have the numbers. They have how fast it is off the line. They have the torque of the engine. They have the expansiveness of the exhaust system. They have the interior comforts and the great sound system and the quality of the leather. And as a customer, I walk away from every dealership confused, because if everybody is the best in the industry, nobody is the best in the industry. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm buying another BMW, right? Because it's what I know.
Comfort. Yep.
And the same thing works in our markets, right? As we look at what Avery Dennison is doing, or resellers of Avery Dennison, it's exactly the same. If we simply talk about why we are better than everybody else, the customer gets confused and it's much harder to win market share. Creating differentiation is based as much on story as it is on metric.
Yeah, and so the experience is what has to be part of selling it. You've talked about Apple and how they do things, and they create experience. So that was really great. I've read your book. I've got it dog-eared, and I've got, just let me show you all the little.
It's very colorful,
I
Robin.
through the book a lot, and you didn't even make me do that, Steve. I did that on my own.
Yeah, but I
So
know where you live, so that has to count for
yeah,
something.
that's right. All right, I've read the book, and in the book you talk about value, passion, and connection. Why don't you talk about that?
All right, perfect. So everything that I just talked about within that example, utilizing the cars, the question that comes to everybody's mind is, okay, but how? How do I create that differentiation? Because as you clearly and correctly said a few minutes ago, frequently our product is our story. That is the way we think about our brand. I have something to sell. Whoever buys it in the marketplace wins by buying my product. My bottom line is safe and healthy and hopefully increases over time, and they were able to conduct better business. So my product, what I have to sell, that's the story of my brand. And what I try to help organizations do is realize, actually, no, your product is an aspect of your brand. Your product is the reason that your brand was created and continues to thrive. But we have to fundamentally get down to what story your brand tells the marketplace that creates that differentiation and that sets you apart, and how do we get there? So let's start talking about how we get there. And it is based on these three pillars of value, passion, and connection. So let's break those down a little bit. Let's talk about value. What does value actually mean? And when I talk about value, it's not only what value means to your market, it's what value means to you, because frequently we forget what our brand is really all about. So this first line, until your audience recognizes and internalizes the personal value, personal, in doing what you want them to do or buying what you want them to buy, they won't do it and they won't buy it. So let's look at that both internally and externally. Your employees, your teams, you go to them and say, here are the changes that we are going to make within our company to create more market share, to improve outbound marketing, to improve our distribution, to improve our supply chains, to funnel more prospects into the buying circuit. Here's what I want you to do. And most of our employees are salary based. And their perspective is, okay, so you want me to work harder? You want me to spend more time in my week? You want me to change what I'm already comfortable with to follow your vision? Well, until your employee internally senses why their role within the company matters in that vision, why doing things differently will pay off for them, you are unlikely to get your employee to do what you want them to do. They won't follow your vision. Telling a better story about your vision as opposed to just, we need to increase our numbers, so go out and sell more. That message is never going to fly. Create value for your people internally, and they will perform better for you externally. Now we take that to the external message. Creating value for the customer is not simply saying, I can sell you that widget cheaper, or I can get you to your destination faster. You know why? Every one of your competitors is telling that exact same story. They all claim they can sell it cheaper. They claim they can get you to your sales destination, your end of year targets faster. And if everybody is making that promise, who am I supposed to believe? The story has to go deeper. So the more of a value-driven story that you can create internally and externally, the better your performance. So I'll just keep going on and on. Let's go to the next step. Let's go to passion, right? So our passion, the passion that we have for why we do what we do, as you said in your opening there, Robin, our passion inspires other people's passion. If we seem bored with our product, imagine the last time that your marketing team stood up and just showed a whole bunch of slides. So first we offer this, and then there's this particular aspect of the adhesives that Avery Dennison creates, and then we do this, and we've got this different research and this different study. These studies, this research is exceedingly important, but if I don't seem excited about that research and what that research has created and the story that that research tells for my market, I can't expect my market to get excited and passionate about it along with me. We have to be passionate first. So if you are not genuinely invested in why you do what you do, in the story that you're going to share with your market, your audience will be able to tell. They're incredibly smart and they can sense it from you. We tell our story the minute we get in front of somebody. So when we talk about audience, an audience can be one person we're sitting across a table from, one prospect, a leader, somebody who is on our team with us, a colleague. An audience can be 10,000 people that we're sending out a marketing message to. It can be 1 million people. Audience is simply somebody who is listening to what we have to say. They have to sense our passion before they will share their passion with our product or for our brand. And then the third piece, connection. Creating a connection is about establishing trust. We do not establish trust by telling people the data and the details about our product, by running through a list of numbers or a list of proof sales points or KPIs. That will never earn trust on its own. Does it tell about how great our product is or our service? Absolutely. But remember, logos pathos. Included with that information about our product, we have to create trust and alignment and clarity for the audience that we're speaking with that says, not only do we offer this phenomenal product, but here is how it's going to change your world for the better. Here is how it's going to alter your paradigm. It's going to shift the way you do business. It's going to shift the nature of your sales funnel. It's going to increase the connection that you are able to create with your brand to the buyer, so that not only do you offer them a product that backs up what you have to say, it also creates differentiation in the marketplace. You mentioned Apple a few minutes ago. I won't go into a long diatribe. I could do an entire book just on how Apple creates differentiation in a crowded tech marketplace, even though we know statistically they do not necessarily have the best technological product, but they create the greatest connection. They tell the best story. And without connection, I promise you, a buyer is either a one-time or one-term contract, because somebody else is out there looking to tell them a better story. And if you want to reduce that churn, your best way to do it, increase that heart connection of your brand to the customer along with offering them a better product. That's my long diatribe on the 3 pillars. I promise I will not do any long speaking to that length of anything else, but it's core to what we're talking about here.
Why should I stop you now? But you're right. Apple does, they reach people through, the heart. They reach people through experience, and they do it with great simplicity. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about providing value first and providing value always. If you would you touch on that?
Good. I'm going to keep this very simple because, again, clarity counts, simplicity counts when we're creating a message. We said before that until somebody knows why they should pay attention to you, they won't. So your trick is, how do you create value as early as possible in any engagement? So think about an engagement in terms of a one-on-one between you and your customer, even if they're a long-term customer, or you and a vast marketplace from a broad marketing perspective. Your audience doesn't care about your brand, your awards, your accolades, your market share, your excellence. Those are all things that you tell yourself to build yourself up. But when we tell them to a marketplace, they tune out. Because why? With them, right? We talk about it all the time. What's in it for me? I don't care how great you say you are. I don't care about what awards you've won. I don't care how much other people love you. What can you do for me right now? Think about reviving your strategy to be less about how great a company you are, how great a product you provide, and more about what can I do for you? Because that's where we prove value. So this acronym, PVFPVA, prove value first, prove value always. And fundamentally, we start by talking about them instead of talking about ourselves. In every engagement, how can you begin by telling your client's story over your own? Because if you can find a way to align your client's story with your story, now you're on the same page, you develop trust and credibility. So prove value first, open with value. And then we are humans. We have very short attention spans. It's the truth. I think the average attention span is between 8 and 20 seconds, which means we can lose people like that. And we don't want to do it. You can see it when you're talking to a crowd and they start to do something like this. And you're thinking, oh, geez, I've lost them. We don't want to do that. So we prove value always, which means every time we give a new bit of information, we create a tie back to the opening value proposition. So I dump a new piece of data or information, or I walk you through a process. And as soon as it's done, I say, remember at the beginning how I promised that by the end of our interaction, you would now know exactly how to do A, B, and C. Well, guess what? I just showed you exactly how to do A. You now have that power in your pocket. So when you walk away, you can start doing it right now, or you know how to get to that power. Now let me show you the next piece of information. And you do the same thing, call back to the opening value proposition. That's the prove value always part. So PVF, PVA, prove value first at the start of the engagement, prove value always by calling back to that value proposition over and over and over. Repetition, it's a strength move.
That is a strength move. So you've said if you go straight for the sale, there's nothing for the human to connect to. So how important is that human connection, and what can you give your customers that connects them?
All right, so this is one of my favorite things, and I talk about this a lot, is it says down at the bottom, 3 levels of information processing psychology. The other way we can think about this, we're getting a little scientific now, is the flow of what's called content hierarchy. How do we hear information, and how do we care about what we hear? So think about this in terms of your sales message or your marketing strategic message. You want to create a level of consistency internally and externally across all of your business units, across everything that creates revenue for your organization. And we hear things on this level. We hear them as humans first, consumers second, employees third. And I'll make this one pretty sharp. If we do not connect with the human being sitting across from us, if they don't care about us, trust us, understand us, feel that we understand them, that we are here for their benefit instead of for our own benefit, they tune out. Which means if we go straight to the pitch, straight to the sale, straight to the data, we've already lost that particular customer. We have not earned their engagement. First thing we have to do is realize that, you know what corporations are made up of? Lots and lots of human beings. Each individual has their own wants, needs, desires, fears, obstacles, challenges. They're just trying to get by in this world. So don't just look at people as wallets or as contracts. We are more than that. And if we can establish that human connection first, now they are open to beginning to hear more about our brand message, our product message, but you have to earn that right. Then we speak to people as consumers. And what I mean by that is buyers. Every one of us is a consumer. We all shop for groceries. We all go to buy a car, a BMW, or some other type of car, and we all decide where we're going to spend our money on travel or on special experiences or on our mortgage and where we want to live, but we're all buyers. We're all consumers. We can also be consumers in addition to financially with our time or with our energy. How do I get you to buy into our experience with one another? How can I get you to invest in what I'm here to share with you? First, I have to earn your human trust, and then I have to prove to you why investing your time and energy in me and what I have to say to you matters. If I can earn that level, then I can speak to you as an employee of your organization and hopefully get you to buy what I have to sell. Most companies, most marketing strategies, most sales strategies flip this upside down. They speak to the employee first, the consumer second, and they forget about the human being altogether. They just want the money. They want to get to the bottom line. And I'm telling you, your customer, your marketplace can smell that a mile off. It's money grubbing. You're hungry. And none of us wants to be pitched. We all look for more than simply a pitch. And that's where a good story can make a difference. A good story speaks to the human first, consumer second, employee third. So think about your outbound and internal strategy right now and ask, am I doing that or am I doing it the other way around? You will see an instant rise in investment from your marketplace and bottom line and share growth if your first strategy is to speak to the human before you speak to the employee.
You know, there's a lot more we could talk about here, but we are very limited on time. So why don't we close with how to give a call to action? How do you get your customers to take action?
All right, so there are a number of different ways that we can get the customer to take action. First of all, investment. And you know whether or not your customers are genuinely invested in you as a brand, or if they're simply looking around for the cheapest way to purchase a product. If it all comes down to how cheaply can I do it? How quickly can I turn out product? How fast can I get to market with a competitive product before the rest of my market leaps in? You're always chasing dollars instead of chasing relationships and chasing investment. Remember, balance your information with inspiration. Do not forget that inspiration. Now, if you would like, I work with some of the largest brands, corporations on the planet, and have been doing so for a whole lot of years. I've represented over 100 Fortune and multinational brands on my own, and a lot of the companies that I work for on a regular basis, Cisco, Splunk, Sony, Panasonic, HP, Fujifilm, Bayer, LG, Intel, Avery Dennison, I've had the opportunity to speak for in the past, and I'm extremely proud of that. But if this is something that you're excited about and you want to learn how to do a bit more of this for your own brand, I consult with a variety of different companies, and they use me to help get to their heart story that can be combined with the brand product. And again, by putting those together, it's empowering. So, first step that I'll have you do, I've got a freebie for anybody who wants to be a part of it. You can see it up here on the screen. If you go to corporatestorytelling.com/guide, you can then put in this code, SOLDTOLD23, all one word, SOLDTOLD23, and you can download my 5 Paths to Passionate Storytelling e-guide. It's a great first step in helping to get you to speaking better about your brand, to communicating more powerfully about your brand. So start with that, and then if you want to talk about anything more, you can get to me through corporatestorytelling.com or stevemulter.com, and I would love to talk with you and support you and help you out more. And then buy the book.
I'm good. Okay, yes. Well, let's about the book. So thank you, Avery Dennison. We are going to give away 5 signed copies of the book. There's
Yay.
a lot of wealth in there. Nothing gets sold till the story gets told. So for more information, Steve's just given you all of that wealth of stuff, but stevemulter.com, you can get more information that way. Thank you, Steve. This was great. Appreciate the time. We are ready to move into the Q&A with our guests, but before we do, you still have time to submit a question. You can post it now in the Q&A on the meeting toolbar. We do want to let you know that OnCore Live is going to be back in 2025. Check your email box for an announcement about the next webisode. And again, that'll come here pretty soon. All right, we've got our guest back with us for our viewer Q&A. Let's get started with our first question. Okay, this is for you, Jenna. So, Jenna, can converters recommend a supplier to participate in a bonding study?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Please. We like to joke that we are very good at making sticky paper, sticky one side, sticky two side. We as the PSA supplier, we really rely on those who work directly with these functional materials every day, because they really have a very deep understanding with how these materials work. So if the converter is working with the materials daily and has a supplier in mind, we would love to hear a little bit more about the supplier and how we can work with them in the future.
Okay, great. Jenna, I'm going to hit you again with another question. There's several questions here for you. Um, so they're asking about the results of the bonding study that were delivered. How does the converter know what works best?
On the results page, you will see on the one side the grades of either foam or felt. In the center, whatever tape was being used, and then a rating scale. So good, better, best. Good is that it did not achieve foam tear with either room temperature or heat lamination. Better, it could achieve foam tear with heat lamination. And then our best rating is it will likely achieve foam tear without the need for heat lamination. So really a quick and easy gut check tool that in a pinch, easy opportunity, you can find the tape that you need with the material, cross-check, and find the best possible product.
Okay, good. All right, we have here's one for you, Steve. If we wanted your help developing our story, what's the process and how long does a story development typically take?
That is such a good question. So let's go with the second part first. Time depends on the individual organization and how close you are to understanding, again, that what I always like to call the heart element of your brand, the foundational of your brand. Depending on a company's size and scope, the more people, of course, the larger the battleship, the harder it is to turn. Some companies can get to a better brand story, honestly, within 3 hours. I run workshops where 3.5 hours later, people walk out the door and leadership says, I see what we have been doing, and I see how we can make good, strategic, simple shifts to be able to tell a better story about our brand that's more connected with our marketplace. The larger the organization, you get a 50, 60,000 person organization. Sometimes that battleship takes months because of the number of people in the pipeline that have to create approval for turning that battleship around. But the process itself tends to start with really drilling deep beyond the product, of getting to the sense of how do we want to speak to the marketplace that allows our brand to stand out in differentiation. So if we go back to the car story, how does the BMW truly differentiate itself in the marketplace from the Mercedes-Benz, fellow German brand? Helping leadership, helping ELT get to that particular stage or that recognition. It can be something that happens within a day. Sometimes it takes as much as 2 or 3 months. Most of the time, though, it's actually quite a short process.
Okay. All right, that's good. Here's one for you, Jenna. Oh, what's the process to access the lab with a specific customer question and need?
I would say reach out to your Avery Dennison account rep is probably the easiest. They are your direct line to us, because then they will be able to bring either myself again or one of my colleagues in, and then they're your direct line to our R&D lab in order to get anything you need from the lab accomplished.
This has been great, guys. I've really enjoyed this today. Jenna, thank you so much. Steve, thank you. You guys have been awesome. A lot of fun today. Great way to end this year. I'm loving this. Thank you. This has been a great way to end an amazing year here at OnCore Live. We want to thank all of you for joining us. From all of us at OnCore Live, have a very happy holiday season and a happy, successful new year. We'll see you next year.